Hey, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. Now that the Olympia is over, some new stories have came out from the Olympia. So first, let's talk about Andrew Jacked. Andrew Jacked has announced that he's doing the Arnold Classic. It looks like he was kind of unhappy at the Olympia because he felt like he didn't get to perform his routine to the fullest, and he says in the caption of this post that he wanted to clarify that he didn't get angry and walk off stage. He says that the songs that he had chosen for his routine, the wrong songs were played, and they were played in the wrong order. And then he says at the very end there, I'll make it up and give you guys a sizzling, unimaginable performance for the Arnold. So now Andrew Jacked has also confirmed he'll be doing the Arnold Classic in March of 2025. And typically, we don't really get an idea of who's doing the Arnold this early in the year. Or I guess I should say this many months away from the Arnold. But we're already starting to see some pretty heavy hitters come out right after the Olympia and say that that's the next show they're doing, including your brand new Mr. Olympia champion, Samson Dauda, came out the next day after winning the title at the Sunday seminar. And he said he's also going to be doing the 2025 Arnold Classic. And this is what I like about Samson. All throughout his career, he's been a guy that competes a lot. And you guys just saw he competed right before the Olympia at the Tsunami Pro in France, which turned out to be a good move for him. And it turned out to be exactly what we thought it might be, which is just a trial run, a warm-up for the Olympia to get an idea of peaking with his wife as his coach. But in years past, you've seen Samson compete right before and right after the Olympia, continue competing, and then go compete at the Arnold. He's just a guy that competes a lot. He's a pro bodybuilder, and he really embodies that professionalism. So that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to see Samson as your current Mr. Olympia, is because you know he's going to compete. We're going to see him more than once a year, and he's probably going to do more shows than just the Arnold. But it really is an exciting thing to see him doing the Arnold Classic because you don't very often get a reigning current Mr. Olympia champion also doing the Arnold. But I think the other thing here too is we're probably going to see Hadi there. If he's able to get to the States, he's the defending Arnold Classic champion. So of course he's going to get the invite. He's going to be invited to the Arnold for sure. I think it's just a matter of whether or not he's able to get his visa and come back again. But I think there's a very high possibility that we'll see a Samson and Hadi rematch at the Arnold this year, and maybe we'll even see Derek there. But anyway, this is one of the reasons why I'm glad to see Samson as the new Mr. Olympia, and I kind of talked about this in the Olympia wrap-up video. I like that we're in an era right now where the Olympia champ is really kind of changing almost every year. It's something that we haven't had in a very long time. The history of the Olympia has been full of guys that just dominated for a very long time. And like I said, since Phil Heath left, 2018 to 2024, you've had 6 different Olympia champions in that time. Sean Roden, Brandon Curry, Big Ramy, Hadi Chupin, Derek Lunsford, and Samson Dauda. And all of those guys, even including Phil in 2017, you can include him, and there'd be 7 different Olympias since 2017. 7 different Mr. Olympias since 2017. Include Phil in there. All of these guys have very different physiques. And I think it's very interesting to see these different champions here recently, because I don't think we've had anything like this since like the 70s. I think that was the last time. Maybe it was early 80s. So 79, you had Frank Zane. That's 1. Arnold Schwarzenegger came back in 1980. That's 2. 81 was Franco. That's 3. 82 was Chris Dickerson. That's 4. 83 was Samir Bannout. That's 5. And then began the reign of Lee Haney in 84. So that's 6 different Olympia champions back to back. And I think that's the last time that happened. And that was over 40 years ago. And then after that, obviously, you had the reign of Lee Haney, the reign of Dorian, the reign of Ronnie Coleman, the Jay Cutler years. But the other thing, too, is I wanted to mention, because I think this kind of got overshadowed a little bit because it was such an exciting, unexpected result that Samson won this year. But the prize money was increased, and they kind of subtly announced this. I guess it was like a last-minute decision They increased it to $600,000. So they did, in the end, decide to one-up the Arnold Classic, which, again, is good for bodybuilding overall. Last year, the prize money for first place at the Olympia was $400,000. That's what Derek Lunsford won. This year, Samson got $600,000, and I believe Samson already holds the title of earning the most prize money in a single calendar year. But I think he's going to break that record, or has a very good chance at breaking that record this year, because now the prize money is so high that if he wins the Olympia and the Arnold Classic this year, that would be $1.1 million. The Arnold Classic is going to be $500,000 for first place. The Olympia now at $600,000. So the fact that a bodybuilder could win 2 shows now, and it would be over $1 million in prize money, is very, very good for bodybuilding. So that kind of brings me to the next story here. Chris Bumstead at the seminar the next day after the Olympia. One of the things that Chris said at that seminar is now that he's retired, one of the things that he wants to do is give back to the classic physique division, and he wants to help increase the prize money. He said, quote, "I haven't said this anywhere else, but I want to talk to Dan Solomon about spicing up the prize a little bit for classic coming from myself." He said that's going to be some CBum money that's coming from me. Next year, they're going to be getting a fatter check than I got this year. He also said at that Sunday seminar that he almost retired last year, and he said he was very close to last year being his last time up on stage. But I think this is part of why Chris is so likable. As you can tell, he's genuinely passionate about classic physique, and he's probably going to go down as the greatest classic physique guy of all time because, as we say, he set the standard. And I think going back to my point earlier about how in open bodybuilding, the last 6 years or so, has been like a different champion almost every year. And I think that's another part of why Chris was so popular in classic, because while bodybuilding, the winner was constantly changing. All those years, while we didn't know really who was going to win the next year, in classic physique, we pretty much knew every year Chris was the guy. And Chris's 6-year reign now was during that period where open bodybuilding seemed like they were looking for the next guy. What's the next standard going to be? And it doesn't seem like open has found that yet. I mean, again, think about how different these guys have been. You go from Big Ramy winning the Olympia to just a couple years later, Derek Lunsford. I mean, those physiques are night and day different. And then going from Derek to Samson, again, just extremely different physiques. And maybe Samson is going to be the guy that sets the standard, but I think we should appreciate and kind of realize that that's kind of what Chris was for us during the past 6 years and all through the pandemic. He was like the constant, steady champ that we didn't really have in open bodybuilding, but we had Chris in classic. And I think on top of that, the impressive thing too is like all these rivals that Chris had, starting with Breon, and then Terrence, and then Ramon, and then this year Mike Sommerfeld. Throughout Chris's reign, he stayed dominant. And then kind of gradually, we saw all these guys that were number 2 contenders that people were saying, oh, this guy's going to beat Chris eventually. They said that about Breon, they said that about Terrence, and they said that about Ramon. And gradually, we kind of saw all those guys fade away kind of out of the conversation, and Chris was just still there, right on top. But now I'm already looking forward to 2025 because this, I mean, honestly, this is the biggest shakeup that we've had at the Olympia in a while. I mean, another new men's open bodybuilding champ, the former champ from last year slipping to 3rd in men's open bodybuilding. But then classic physique, all the placings, like 2nd all the way to 10th, were pretty shooken up. And Chris retiring on top of that, I think leaves the title wide open next year. I don't think we know who's going to take it. I mean, Ramon was supposed to be like the guy. Like, this is the guy that could stop Chris. Then he slipped to 4th. And then Wesley was like the new guy that everybody was talking about, including me, placing worse than he placed the year prior. All the way to 8th place. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what the new standard for classic physique is going to be, what the new champ is going to look like. Because, again, you think back before Chris, Breon and Danny Hester, the first two Classic Physique Olympia champions, very, very different physiques than what we started to see from Chris Bumstead. So will we see the title go back in the direction of maybe a shorter guy like Mike Sommerfeld, and maybe Rough Diesel will be back? Or will it be another tall guy that takes it? And then I'm thinking about the 2025 Arnold Classic. I'm assuming Wesley will be invited back because he's the defending champion at both Arnolds. And Chris was really the only guy that didn't do the Arnold of all the top Olympians. They all typically did it. So I feel like there's a real possibility, now that Chris has stepped down, I think the Classic Physique at the Arnold is going to be a little preview of who the next frontrunner is going to be. But then again, maybe it's not, because, I mean, look what happened to Wesley, and that's the crazy thing about bodybuilding, is anything can happen. But I think now that Chris is out of the equation, I think there's a high probability we're going to get a little preview of what the new Olympia Classic Physique space might look like at the Arnold this year. And then I think as far as the Arnold goes, again, there's the question of Nick Walker. Will we see him there or not? I know in their original video when they announced that they were out of the Olympia, they kind of said they don't want to say the Arnold because they don't know what the future holds, but Nick will need to requalify. If he wants to be at the Olympia in 2025, he's going to have to qualify somehow, be it the New York Pro again, the Arnold, whatever he does, he's going to have to compete before the Olympia no matter what, if he intends to be there. So I think that's another thing to consider about the upcoming Arnold, is maybe we will see Nick there. And this is the latest training video from Nick, but I don't know. I just think it's a really exciting time to be a bodybuilding fan. It's kind of interesting how much things change, because I mean, even just last year, when Nick pulled out of the Olympia because of the hamstring injury, there was a lot of people after that Olympia talking about, well, if Nick had competed, he probably would have won. And I don't see any of that this year. I don't see anybody saying, well, if Nick were in it, he would have won. I really don't think Nick would have beaten this version of Samson. And especially with whatever was going on with Nick's physique, we might never really know. But I think the most exciting prospect when it comes to Samson at the Arnold is the Samson and Hadi rematch, because I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but on the scorecards, it reflected that Samson and Hadi were tied at prejudging, and then Samson won it in the finals. So it was very close between Samson and Hadi here. So it's not like Samson is guaranteed to win this, which is really what I like about the Samson and Hadi rivalry. They go back and forth at the Olympia, at the Arnold, and I would really like to see Derek do the Arnold too, but something tells me we're not going to get to see that. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this was one of the most exciting Mr. Olympias we've had in years. Like I said, I think this was probably the most shaken up between both divisions, the classic placings, the open placings. This was quite the shakeup. And even some of the placings we didn't talk much about here, but like Brandon Curry slipping to 9th place. That's a pretty big deal. Rafael Brandao found himself in 8th, still better than his last Olympia appearance. He was kind of in the mix. I think if he's a little bit sharper next time around, he's going to do very well. But I was still very impressed with Rafael, but he was just outside of that conversation for top 6. Bonac placing ahead of Rafael, Brandon Curry. I mean, that was a really good placing for Bonac in 7th. And hell, Martin Fitzwater at his Olympia debut, top 4 right off the bat. I mean, crazy impressive, right? Derek slipping to 3rd, Samson finally winning. And it is kind of interesting, too, because it's kind of like been right in front of us this whole time. Samson's been probably the most talked about guy all year long, whether positive or negative. He's really been one of the most talked about bodybuilders, maybe aside from Nick Walker. But there was like the Samson and Milos drama. There was the drama right before the Arnold Classic UK. He did both Arnolds. He did the Tsunami show in France. There was the Oxygen Gym thing, so he stopped training there. Then he started training with only his wife. I mean, throughout the course of the year, when you really think about it, we definitely talked about Samson way more than Hadi or Derek. And I think that's because Samson is so good of a bodybuilder. If it was a bodybuilder that's not placing top 10 at the Olympia, or a bodybuilder that's not winning shows, nobody would care at all if they split with their coach. Nobody would care at all if they're sick before the Arnold Classic UK. It wouldn't be a story. It wouldn't be something to talk about. No one would care if their wife is prepping them. But I think because Samson is so clearly built for bodybuilding, I think that's why there's been so much speculation and conversation around him this year. And that's because I think everybody agrees that he has the tools to win, but we were just waiting on really good conditioning. But anyway, I'm rambling on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, today's video is brought to you by the Arnold Sports Festival. Go to their website, arnoldsports.com. Buy some merch, buy some tickets for next year. Watch the replay of last year's live stream for free, and look forward to and anticipate another live stream in 2025.
I was born a bodybuilder and I will die a bodybuilder. This is the #1 bodybuilding show in the world. It was really spectacular. We're going to go up to $500,000 for the winner next year.
All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NICKS&P, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.